Hi, I'm Chris McBrien, a Gen Xer, and the pop culture from my generation is awesome.
And I'm Yancy Eaton, a millennial, and the pop culture from my generation is dope.
Episode 70, Contact Movie Review. Chris McBrien here, along with Yancy Eaton. It's Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. And yes, we are back after a long hiatus. Yancy, welcome back to the show, my friend. We're back. Woo!
Yes. Chris, thank you for having me back. I say this every single time we have a hiatus, just because I always feel so incredibly guilty about it. But once again, this wasn't Chris's doing. This was more of mine. Just a lot of unforeseen things always come up in life. And, that's just the way life is. But especially with work, my schedule's just been absolutely crazy. And there's been multiple times where I would work 5 or 6 nights in a row. And then, I hadn't seen my wife and it was our anniversary weekend. And, we were supposed to record. And Chris is, always understanding and empathetic, and he just puts the big picture stuff. You make things that are more important, Chris, and you never give me a hard time about not being able to record. But I hate it. I hate missing shows. I feel like I get out of my element, and this is another thing I've said before in the past too, but it is so nice when we don't get to record a show and our listeners reach out to us. Either they're hitting me up on Twitter or on Facebook, or they're sending us emails or text messages or what have you. But just to get that feedback from you guys and let us know that, hey, people actually do listen to this and they enjoy it and they want more of it. Pretty encouraging. But
I agree.
What about you?
I got a bunch of emails and tweets as well, and people were like, "Hey, man, what's going on with the show?" And people are so nice. They're like, "Hey, I understand. It's a labor of love, and but when are you coming back? We miss you, kind of thing." So it's just wonderful. I just love that. And then even Caveman reached out to me too. Our of course our great friend Caveman, and he was like, "Hey, man, when are you coming back? I really miss the show and this and that, and maybe I'm available to come on sometime if you want to have me back again." I was like, "Of course you're going to come back on. He's like our greatest guest ever, right?" So he said to me, maybe we could do a show on heist movies, and then he could come on. He was like, hint, we could do that. And I think it's a good idea. The only problem I have with that, I think, is that how many heist movies are there? We usually do top fives. Okay, we all agree it's Ocean's 11. We're done. And then I could be like, oh, wait a minute. No. I mean the one from 1960 with Frank Sinatra. That's the only thing. You know what I mean? Okay, there's the show. So I don't know. I mean, we could certainly look at that, but we're definitely having Caveman back on again sometime soon. Sure. In terms of what's going on in my life, I have a couple things, and you're going to be so proud of me, I think, of one of these things. I'm
always proud of you, Chris. That's a trick question. I'm always proud of you.
Oh yeah, whatever. So yeah, you're proud, proud of the old guy, because I haven't died yet. That's why, because I'm sold. Okay, so I got a Roku stick, and it's on my TV upstairs in our bedroom. And I know how you feel about having a TV in your bedroom. Your wife doesn't like that, but we have one in ours. And so what I do is sometimes at night, and if my wife goes to sleep early, I've been putting on Netflix, and what I started watching is The Office.
Oh, wow. Chris, I'm actually really proud of you. Holy cow.
You would be proud of me, man.
Wow.
Because I was like, okay, I'm going to watch Happy Days from start to finish. I'm going to watch WKRP every single episode again. Oh, no, I'll go back and watch Cheers. Then I thought, you know what? I had to do something for the friggin' millennial for once, and I'm going to watch The Office. So I started right from the very first one, and I think the first series is only the first season rather is only 6 episodes, and then I think I'm into 2 or 3 in season 2. So I'm just chugging along slowly, but I really like that show. It's really, really, really good. So I got to give some credit.
I'm not just saying this just to be agreeable, and I think our history and our rapport back and forth shows that we don't care about necessarily being agreeable with each other or agreeing at all, but I am so happy and so proud of you for actually really watching it and listening to it and giving it a chance. I never used to be a fan of that type of comedy until I did start watching it. And then I just became hooked. And it's one of those shows it's a recurring thing with me, but I like the fact that they are so rewatchable, and it's become like a crutch as far as if I'm having a bad day and I can't think of anything to watch, or I just want to be idly almost soothed or coaxed into sleep or something. I just turn on The Office and I love it. So I'm proud of you. I mean,
yep.
You've watched Breaking Bad, you've watched The Office, you've watched, a dozen really sci-fi movies. This is huge for you. You're a completely different person now.
I know, it's very good. And then to put things in perspective, because I got to keep everything balanced, because I still got to swing back to the Gen X stuff. So what I did was I said, my son is 8, and then my other son's 5. And my son that's 5, he's just too young. He doesn't like watching movies, right? But my 8-year-old loves watching movies. So I'm always oh, we got to watch this Gen X movie. We got to watch that one. So it was like last weekend, and it was like Saturday, and we got done dinner, and then he's like, let's watch a movie together. So we came downstairs. I got a big screen TV, 60-inch TV down here in the basement. And so I come downstairs, and we turn off all the lights, and we put a movie on. And I said, you know what? I got a movie for us to watch. And so I put it on, and I put on The Princess Bride. And it was unbelievably magical to watch him watch that movie. Because at the beginning, he was just like that kid in the movie that's played by Fred Savage, who's like, I don't know if I like this, Daddy. I don't know. This isn't And then once Andre the Giant was on there, and once there was like all the shrieking eels, and so he's like, oh, I kind of like this, Daddy. And it was just magical. Mm-hmm. And then my 5-year-old came down and snuggled in beside me, and he sat there and watched the whole movie too. So the three of us down here in the basement watching on the big screen The Princess Bride, and it was just magical. When you can share those Gen X movies, with your young kids, it's something magical. I don't know, there's something about it. It was really good. And now me and my son, we're constantly quoting the movie all the time. He just loves Facili, and we're like, the cliffs of insanity, and we yell at each other in the house and stuff. And even at breakfast, he'll be like, Dad, never match wits with a Sicilian when death is on the line. Like it's just so great. So I'm assuming that you've seen this movie. Have you?
You would assume wrong. I've never seen it. I know that's bad.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I don't even know how to start with you. How could you've never seen The Princess Bride? Oh man,
I just haven't. I was too busy. I don't know, doing other things. I've told you this before. Like when I was a kid, like we were like outside kids. Like the last thing my mom wanted, like there were 4 of us and we were all 2 years apart. So the last thing she wanted, especially like during the weekends and summer breaks, was us being in the house, just absolutely destroying stuff. So she'd let us outside. She'd give us a bottle of water. She'd lock the door, and like we would go have our fun. Like I did not watch a bunch of movies when I was growing up.
I have nothing to say. You're proud of me. I'm not proud of you, young man. I'm just kidding. Okay, you ready to get started with your movie review?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Yancy, what the hell are you doing to me?
There's a girl topless in it. I mean, I'm sure you probably have seen it.
Boom, 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 boom,
yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
Spoilers ahead.
But he was not my favorite pilot of any of these Star Wars movies. That, of course, was Porkins.
He might be one of my favorite actors.
That's some good
I think that's fair. I do think that's fair.
The fact that we're kind of nerds.
Textbook nerds.
I thought I was looking up my mother's old but that's in Ohio.
How disappointed was your son whenever you said, I'm going to go take you to see Bare Naked Ladies? And he's like, oh, it's just a concert.
What is going on, man? Okay, so this week you made me watch Contact from 1997. I had never seen the film, so it was good, for me to go and watch this movie because every week it seems we're nominating films that the other has not seen. So I went and I watched this movie. And would you like to carry it away for us? Yancy, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So just to read the little byline from IMDb, it says Contact is from 1997. It's a drama mystery sci-fi, and it stars Dr. Ellie Arroway. It's played by Jodie Foster. After years of searching, she finds conclusive radio proof of extraterrestrial intelligence, and they're sending plans for a mysterious machine. This was directed by Robert Zemeckis, who also did Forrest Gump, which I know you have a little bit of like a salty grudge against Forrest Gump. It's been well documented on the show. But,
I don't like it.
I think it's an interesting movie. It gives you more questions than it does answers, as is the case with a lot of alien sci-fi. Even though you don't really see aliens in this movie, spoiler as always. But it's a weird movie. It's an imperfect movie. There's some things in this that I wish they would have done differently. But overall, I think the premise is incredibly interesting, and it's actually pretty rewatchable. So, what do you think about the movie?
Man, I don't know how to say this. Man, Yancy, you really like some weird shit.
I do.
You really do.
This is factual, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know what to say. Okay, so this is going to be my take on it, okay? First of all, when I told my wife was always like, "Okay, what did Yancy nominate for the movie this week?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Contact." It's, and then she's like, the first thing she always does is she'll go to like IMDb and like read it, right? And then she's like, oh no, another science fiction movie from Yancy. Oh man, she's like, this is going to be boring. I don't want to watch it. Wait a minute, Matthew McConaughey's in it? Oh, I guess maybe we could watch it. I'm like, oh jeez, because she just loves Matthew McConaughey, right? So she thinks he's super hot. Here's the thing. I'm watching the movie and it goes through something kind of dawned on me, and then I just got to share you. So first of all, the first thing that dawned on me was I feel like I've seen this movie already like several times. And it's because these movies have these similar premises that you like. And I know you like sci-fi movies with like, weird plots and things like that. But
right.
I tell you what, so here's the thing. Being the Gen Xer and being the guy who likes to watch those movies from the 70s and 80s over and over and over again, I always get blamed for watching the same movies over and over again. And I fully accept it because I totally do watch the same movies over and over again. But here's the thing, Yancy. You watch the same movie premise over and over again. That's my takeaway on this. What do you think of that?
On the whole movie, that's your take.
No, that's just one of my takeaways. We'll get into the movie. We'll get into the movie, but that's my takeaway. That was my first thought on this process.
I think that's not to sound like super like haughty or like defensive or something, but I think that's a really simplification of the entire genre of movies that I like. I think that they all kind of like point in the same direction as far as like looking outward, looking forward, and trying to figure out what our place is and everything. Like, the greatest questions we've ever asked ourselves, like in the history of mankind, is who are we, where are we from, and why are we here? And this is just another movie that does touch on that same thing. And most of my favorite movies, like you said, like they do touch on that. That's the main theme of it, is just trying to find like our place in all of it. I don't know. It's just a theme that I really appreciate and I identify with personally because we were just talking off air. Maybe if you guys subscribe, for like $1,000 a month, we'll let you guys listen to our conversations off air. It gets a little risque, but I'm not the same person I was a year ago or 5 years ago, or definitely 10 years ago. I've had the same job since I was 18 years old, and now I'm almost 30 years old. And it's just weird how like my perception of things has completely changed. And instead of me constantly, just wanting to look inward and focusing inward on myself, I like to take a step back and look on bigger picture things. And one of the things I love about this movie is Jodie Foster's character even says it in this, Ellie. She talks about how this whole experience has left her feeling incredibly tiny and insignificant, but also incredibly rare and precious. And I think that kind of puts everything in perspective with me, like my love for astronomy, my love for just science fiction and, origin theories and physics and all that stuff. It just kind of like, I don't know, it just feeds my mind in like a way that nothing else does. Like I'm a man that constantly has like a lot of existential crises like inside my head, just kind of formulating. And sounds like I'm on LSD right now. I'm not on LSD, but it's just weird. I'm the type of person, Chris, where like I look up and like I'm constantly wondering what else is out there. And so like I definitely do gravitate towards films that kind of poke at that, and they pull a little bit back. And I think this one, like I said, albeit is 100% not a perfect film. There's a lot of things that I wish they had done differently as far as casting and just the flow and the pace of it. I think there are scenes that could have been completely gutted. I don't really care for the ending, but it's the premise that just gets me every single time. It's the hook that brings me back. I
will say this, that I do think they did a pretty decent job of balancing. It's really tough to balance politics and science fiction and religion, or at least faith. Right?
Correct.
Those are three real difficult things to balance individually, but let alone when you put all three of them into one movie. So, I mean, that's definitely a lot to bite off. So I guess, for that, I'll give them some kudos. Just going back to a couple of things that you said, in terms of the casting, you said you felt some of the casting was wrong. I felt almost from top to bottom, especially with the leads, I didn't like the casting. So let's start with Jodie Foster. For me, I thought she was miscast in this. And here's the thing. I think Jodie Foster might be the best actress of her generation. Like, she's that good. Like, she's outstanding.
I don't necessarily disagree, but that's a hot take. Yeah. You just kind of like snuck that in there, but I would really like to discuss that.
Yeah, and well, if you go back and remember I made you go back and watch Taxi Driver, which was her first film, right? Mm-hmm. So she plays a 12-year-old prostitute in that movie, and she was unbelievable. Iris was her character, remember? And she's just phenomenal in that. And if you go back and watch her in a movie, it wasn't a great movie, but her role in it was so good in The Accused. Like, she's good. And if you watch Silence of the Lambs, like, wow. The thing is, if you go back and watch Silence of the Lambs, I think that we tend to think of Silence of the Lambs and you think of Anthony Hopkins' character, right? Hannibal Lecter. And he's kind of the takeaway. Oh, he stands out in that movie. Go back and watch what she did in that movie. I think you might be really surprised. She is an unbelievably talented actress, like one of the best of her generation, I believe. That being said, I think she's too much of an actress for this part. I think this part called for somebody, just like you said, you nailed it on the head, that has to be insignificant. Like a small speck in this big, big world. You know what I mean? And to me, she was a little bit too big. So there was that, and Matthew McConaughey, much to, my wife will disagree with this, but he was completely miscast in this movie, as far as I'm concerned. We're supposed to buy him as a theologian, or what is he, a religious advisor to the president? I mean, really? Really? Come on. He's a religious guy. It's Matthew McConaughey. Now, I know you've got to kind of put aside the Hollywood persona and, buy into the character, but he just didn't do it for me. Didn't sell it in any way. I thought this guy is completely miscast. They were almost too good looking. I guess, what I mean?
I agree with that. I also think that he was miscast in his role, and they were miscast as like how they interacted with each other. I mean, some of the most awkward, clunky, unrealistic, unbelievable scenes are just the ones where it's just the two of them together. I mean, even like the kissing was just like, even like 15-year-old Yancy was like, wow, that dude does not know how to kiss. You know what I mean? Like it's clunky. It's unbelievable. Just like he talks about how like he gets his master's and then he drops out of school. I'm sorry, but who gets their master's and then drops out of school? Like, I didn't understand that. Like, most people, that's the absolute apex. So what, he didn't go get like his doctorate or something? Like, I don't understand what that means. Like, there's just a lot of like really corny like lines and just like little like side deviations of the plot, like the eccentric billionaire that didn't have to be in this at all. Just like the crazy religious zealot, like the dude with like the dyed hair. Like, I mean, I understand, like, I think the point that they were trying to make was showing that how, like, whenever presented with information, like, people are always going to react in like a bunch of different ways, right? There's so many different ways that people can take things. Either they become emboldened in their faith, or they become defensive, or they give up everything that they knew in the past. And like, they show the scene where like everybody's in the desert or whatever next to all of these satellite dishes, and there's people who are of every religious affiliation or lack of an affiliation, like Nazis and Native Americans and just all these crazy religions and stuff, and they're trying to make this movement about them, and like it's a direct communication to them, or it's an indictment on another religion, and it's a testament to theirs. And I actually really enjoy that part. That's when it comes to big events like this, everybody tries to make it seem to fit into their narrative. They want confirmation bias that only proves what is correct for them. And it touches on that a lot. And it also touches on the fact that like Jodie Foster's character, she prides herself on being like a woman of science who believes in reason and logic. And towards the end of the film, whenever she does go through like this incredible, journey, to the other side of the galaxy and meets these different entities, she's left with no proof. And that's the conundrum here. The paradox is that, she's always kind of like held her nose to people who were, people of faith, because they believed in something that couldn't be proven. And then she coincidentally finds herself, at the end of the film, basically testifying before Congress, because this is something that they've spent, $750 billion building, and she comes back, a mere seconds later with absolutely zero proof. So it plays to that a lot. It plays to what is actual beliefs and what are our belief systems versus, faith and proof. And I just thought like it was a really interesting back and forth where it switches on its head all the time. And I don't know, just kind of how Jodie Foster's character handled it. I would have loved it so much more if it were just about her and the science and like the journey itself, and not stupid love stories and bureaucratic red tape and all of the religiosity that was in it. I wish it was just more about like a woman like discovering something. What do you think about that?
Well, if it was, I guess the movie would probably only be like 4 minutes long, right? So maybe that's why they had to put that other stuff in there. I got to touch base on a bunch of stuff that you just mentioned, because you really touch base on a lot of things. But you mentioned a couple of really important things that I think we need to talk about. So the first one is, you mentioned about the kissing scene and about how it was not believable. I got to tell you, the only part my wife liked was the kissing between Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster. I think probably because she just wants to fantasize about kissing Matthew McConaughey, which I guess I can live with. I mean, it's better than if she was fantasizing kissing Jodie Foster, I guess. But right. Or maybe that's something else. So there was the kissing scene. That's one thing. The other thing, you mentioned about sort of the religiosity and the faith-based stuff, and how she was more of a scientist, and like he's the faith, and all this, and you mentioned about the Senate thing. So for me, it's like in the Senate hearing, when they were trying to like determine who was gonna, or I don't know if it was the Senate or not. I think it was, but when they had the scene where trying to determine who's going to go on this trip, and they said to her, "Are you religious?" Right? Mm-hmm. Remember they asked her that question. So first of all,
do you believe in God?
Yeah, do you believe in God? So first of all, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm Canadian, right? So I'm from the outside looking in. Like, I mean, but yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but what is this all about? I know. But listen, so I do really pay attention closely to American politics, as you know. Like, I'm just a junkie for news and politics and history and all that stuff. And like, with the amount of lies that I saw people tell to Senate committees in the last year has been mind-boggling to me. So if someone is going to be asking a question like, do you believe in God? You know what her answer should have been? It's none of your business. That should have been her answer. But again, I know it doesn't play into the, the movie and all that kind of thing.
Well, I think she didn't say it just in that light, but she did try to be a little bit defensive and talk about how she believes in like the process and the scientific method. And like fine. She does say like, towards the end of her conversation, she says like, I'm struggling to find the relevance of this question. Like what does my viewpoints on God or a higher power, or my affiliation with religion, what does that have to do with me going on this scientific expedition of which I'm the discover of? You see what I'm saying?
Well,
I definitely get that. Like,
yeah, I mean, the reason why we notice now, again, spoiler alert, the reason why is Matthew McConaughey brought it up to instill doubt in everybody so that she wouldn't go, because he loves her, didn't want her to go in space because time moves at a different speed up there, so she'd come back 50 years later. And by the way, that's another thing why I feel that I've watched this movie before, is because that whole idea of time elapsing at different speeds.
Very Interstellar.
It's like, it was like Interstellar all over again. I'm like, oh man, I'm watching this movie. As I've seen it. I really liked this movie the last time I saw it. But so there was that. And then the other thing was, like, when you mentioned about she came back and didn't have any proof. But remember the scene at the very end of the movie, you realize that they did have proof, because James Wood his character admits that they had 18 minutes of static. On the tape. So it proves a couple things. It proves, number one, that James Woods, by the way, is a and by the way, I don't even mean his character, just in real life, man. That guy's an idiot. I mean, he's so mean-spirited, that guy. And the thing is, so he's perfectly well cast in this. A dishonest national security advisor? Yeah. Oh, come on, Yancy. I got to believe that he's, who's going to buy a dishonest national security advisor? They're always such above board. Mike Flynn, Yeah. So, I mean, the whole thing, I tell you, I don't know. Carl Sagan, though, wrote this book. Have you read any of Carl Sagan's stuff? Because it seems like that'd be something you'd be interested in. Even though he's a Gen X guy. That's a Gen X, big time Gen X thing is Carl Sagan. But have you ever read his stuff? Are you familiar with his work?
Yeah, I am actually pretty familiar. He, I wouldn't say that he's the most, progressive or groundbreaking, but he was kind of the one who brought a lot of astrophysics into the mainstream, or as mainstream as it's going to get. So yeah, I mean, I've read, a Pale Blue Dot and stuff. I've read a couple things of his, more of excerpts and stuff. I haven't written, full books and stuff, but I mean, he's basically the godfather of modern, astrophysics and cosmology. He's I'm trying to think of who would the godfather of astronomy would be, but that's basically him. So I mean, I don't even know how to segue this into another question and kick it back to you. Whereas I like that I find similarities between this and other movies, you mentioned Interstellar. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that type of thing, and with you, if you especially if you didn't like a past film, if you find links between them, I've noticed that that's generally a negative thing. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
So if you find links or characteristics that are similar between two films, right. For instance, this one versus Interstellar, mm-hmm. I see that, especially if I like the film, but I see that as almost an homage or a credit to another movie. And I enjoy that type of stuff in films.
Oh yeah.
But I've noticed with you, do you really though? Because I feel maybe it's just because it's movies that you don't like, but for the most part, you'll find if it's derivative or similar to another movie, I almost feel you don't appreciate that. Would you agree with that at all, or no?
No, I don't think so. If it's done properly, done as you said, the word you used was an homage. If it's done as an homage, I think it's great. Mm-hmm. You brought up on the podcast numerous times that, just when you think something's new, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Because I usually am the one that steps on your toes there. I'm like, whoa, no, wait a minute. The Simpsons did it. Remember that? I'll be no, that was done, from a movie in, the 60s or the 70s or something like that. And so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with homages. It's just that I think my takeaway, like I said, just to go back to my original point, is that, you and a lot of other people tweet at me and send me emails and say, all you do is watch the same movies over and over again. Yes, I do. But So does Yancy. Yancy, also just watches the same movie premise over and over again. It's like, I've seen this movie 3 times already, just with different titles, as far as I'm concerned. What was another part I was going to make when you were talking about? Oh, so what do they call that thing? That space machine thingy that they get kind of created with the rings spinning around and all that. Did it ever have a name? I don't even know.
I can't remember offhand, to be honest with you.
So the thing that got me, because you mentioned it triggered it when you mentioned the guy with the blonde hair, kind of like the terrorist or whatever, right? So when the terrorist blew it up, remember when he had that bomb and then like he blows the whole thing up and whatever?
Right. He like sneaks in. He dresses up as like a worker or maintenance guy.
Yeah. And then he's got like bombs strapped to him and all this explosive, and then boom, he blows it up. So what got me was like, okay, so that happens, like, oh wow, okay. And then I almost had to laugh because they're like, oh no, it's okay. We built a second one. It's right over here. And then It's like, what? And then it's like this, it's all like a big secret 1 minute. And then the next minute it's like, it's on CNN. So I'm like, I don't get this. So that part kind of threw me for a loop, like to me, it just felt a little contrived and stuff like that. So I don't know.
That's one of the prime examples of like you mentioned, contrive. I think that's a perfect word, where it doesn't make any sense that you're building a machine that costs, like they said, $750 billion, but you just so happen to have like a secondary one that is completely just ready to go at the exact same time, despite the fact that it costs so much to make. You know what I mean? It's like you're spending trillions, over $1.5 trillion on 2 different machines. By the way, it's also in Japan, and yet despite it being in Japan, they're just going to let the Americans use it. You're just going to send an American. That's how that's going to work. That doesn't make any sense. It's just there's lots of little plot holes like that. Like, that one's the best example, I think. But the one that really like gave me a lot of pause with this was not the very ending, but whenever she actually does transcend, time and space, and she goes off to Vega and actually walks on the beach and stuff. Yes, it's a green screen. I thought it looked cool though. I thought it was like a glowing like phosphorescent beach, excuse me. And like, you still see like the universe and like the Milky Way and the stars and stuff. I thought it was cool looking. The fact that they represent, the aliens are represented physically by like an image or like a hologram of her father, and they use the justification that like it would be easier for her to like understand or to accept it. Again, another cop out where it's like you didn't give like a physical representation of like this life form. You didn't give us any answers. You basically just like took a part of her memories and just made a fake representation to it, and then didn't answer any of her questions whatsoever. You didn't answer who they are or how many of them there are. She asks, are there more? And he says, oh yeah, there's many more. Well, why are we doing this? Because we've done it for billions of years. Like, these are so non-answers. And I don't know. I kind of felt like that was a cop-out. Like, you've built this up so much, and then you don't tell us who these people are or what they look like, or, you're literally left. I said this at the top of the show. You're left with more questions than you are answers. So like, I really appreciate the journey that this movie takes. But the ending does leave me, kind of feeling a little bit flat. Did you kind of feel that way as well?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, because in a way, you can tell that it came out in 1997. And here's why, because then in that scene, they said that the aliens sort of scanned her brain and went through her memories to find out what she liked. So they knew how to project an image, of her dad to talk to her. Because if it had come out today, that movie, they would have used some sort of data scraping firm to go through her social media to find out what she liked, right? And then James Woods would have come out and told her to vote for Trump, right? So that's what would have happened right there.
Correct.
So, I thought that was a little bit weird, because she went through like this wormhole in space and all that. Like I said, you really like some weird bro. I mean, there's no question. But so it was really, really weird. And I'm just wondering, because I was a little bit shocked by the whole thing. Like, what the hell was that all about? Was it like the wormhole thing? Was it supposed to be like she went to heaven so that she could be convinced to believe in God? Is that what you think? What the hell happened?
I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like, this whole movie plays a lot with the idea of belief systems and like what you think of as far as like blind faith, essentially. And like, it even talks about it at the end whenever, that congressional committee or whatever is interviewing her. Like, they talk about like, are you expecting us to just believe this on faith kind of thing? So like, they beat this in your head over and over again, just like, Interstellar does with time. It's the same kind of principle of just absolutely bashing in your head. But I just don't, if that's the only point that they're trying to make, that like, you know, God does exist, like that's one hell of a way to do it, where you make this, you send out like these really cryptic messages, and then people decipher them. They build a machine, they transcend time and space, like I mentioned, and come and visit you, but you only represent yourself as a hologram derived from their memories, and then you don't give them any specific answers, and then you send their ass back. That if that's if that's what the movie is trying to say God is, like, I'm really confused, to be honest with you.
know.
And I'm just left with more questions than answers. And this is one of those things too, where like, I'll take your ideas just because you can articulate them better than I can take my positive ideas. And like, I'll end up talking mostly negative stuff about this movie. Like, it has a lot of problems, but in the end, I still think it's just like really freaking cool.
Yeah, I guess I know it was trying to be clever too, with its sort of almost Zelig type. Oh, and that's a Gen X reference that you're not going to get, but it was just sort of this use of like Bill Clinton's in the movie, and Larry King and all these other news people. I think, like, I know they were trying to make it seem real, I guess, but to me that seemed a little contrived too. What about you?
No, I agree. Some of the critiques that, like, if you go on like Rotten Tomatoes, whatever, one of the things they say is like, holy, like, really bad editing in Photoshop and whatever, like, to try to like supplant Bill Clinton into this movie. Like, they do it multiple times, and like they literally have him like superimposed and like, you know, like a shot like right next to another person, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't look natural. It takes away from the film, to be honest with you. It's super distracting. And there was lots of weird stuff in that throughout the film. Like you said, they were trying to inject like the cultural zeitgeist into it, and like give you like points of reference to like, oh yeah, like we're in this time frame because look, it's Bill Clinton, or it's you know this and I don't know, like that part just didn't work for me either. Like, this is the type of film where, like I said, I love the premise. Man, would this really do well with a remake, I think, with a different cast, with a different kind of like director, a different vision, maybe put a little bit more money behind it, more practical, as opposed to like CGI type of stuff, less green screen. Like, this could really be like a very, very cool movie if you like really went back and spent some time on it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the director, because, you know, Zemeckis he's an interesting director when you think about it, you know, to direct this type of film. You mentioned him directing Forrest Gump, but like, to me, I will always know Robert Zemeckis from Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You know what I mean? Like, so those were the movies that I think of when I think of Robert Zemeckis, and he seems like an odd guy to direct this one. But the one thing that I did like, though, was right near the end, I think she says, if it's just us out there, it seems like an awful waste of space. And that's a quote from Carl Sagan. You know, obviously he wrote this, you know, or this is based on, you know, one of his works. He was dead by the time this came out, but that's a line that I like. I like that line a lot. And
well, they repeat it multiple times too. Matthew McConaughey's character says it to her. Her dad says it to her at the beginning of the film. Yeah.
And then you were mentioning about astrophysics and things like that. Like, and who you said Carl Sagan is kind of, what Carl Sagan, to put things in perspective for your generation, Carl Sagan is to Gen X with this stuff kind of like Stephen Hawking is to millennials. You know what I mean? Like, he really brings things to the forefront. Like, he brought things to the mainstream and kind of put it into pop culture. You know, like this whole idea of, you know, time and space and kind of where everything, how it all works, and kind of, it's pretty cool. So, overall, what would you rate this movie out of 10? You obviously like it. I mean, you nominated it, so you obviously like this movie a lot, I'm assuming. Like, why else?
I do. Right? I do like it, and I think, you know, if we had to go back and list every single movie, I really should do that, like on a spreadsheet or something. Just like list all the movies that I've reviewed of my own and your movies as well. Just to kind of like go back and have like a, you know, like a post-mortem on them and like rethink about them and hash and see how like my thought process has changed, my opinions have changed on them. But of the films that I have suggested on this podcast, this is probably like one of my least favorite. I still really, really enjoy it, and I thought that it would be kind of interesting to talk about because I know you said that it's the same movie that you've seen 3 or 4 times of the other movies, but like I do feel like this is like its own weird little movie that was, you know, it feels like distinctly like mid 90s. You know what I mean? Like, it's a time capsule type of movie where like anybody from the next 30, 40 years will know roughly within a few years of when this movie was made. It's weird. It's imperfect. I think if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, they give it like a 65. IMDb has it as like a 70%, something like that. So it's not great. I really like the premise. Like I said, I think this is ripe for a remake, like 100%. But I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10.
Oh, wow. So pretty good. So 75%. So I mean, it's on, you know, B+.
I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. Like, I know there's a lot of people who would watch this film and not enjoy it at all, but I really do like it.
I'd probably give it around a 5.5. Like, I mean,
okay.
Just where I'm at, with that. Anyway, so how about if I give you some trivia on this? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's have some
fun with Yancy.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to drop some trivia on you since you like this movie so much that you nominated it. So we mentioned the movie Yancy was directed by Robert Zemeckis, right? However, Roland Joffe was originally the director. He was slated to direct the film, but he dropped out. Yancy, can you name the 1984 film that Roland Joffe is best known for directing? Hint.
I cannot.
Hint.
No.
I made you watch it on this podcast. It's about journalists from 1984.
Oh, The Killing Field.
There we go. Let's see. I gave
Was that 1984 too? I can't remember.
1984. Yep. Okay. So we mentioned the star power of Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey in this movie. But even with them, Contact was only nominated for one Academy Award, and that was Best Sound. Okay? And it even lost in that category to the movie that won Best Picture that year. Yancy, can you name the movie that won the Best Picture Oscar and basically swept the awards in 1997?
Oh,
Tons of awards. Huge movie.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs?
No, that was 93.
No?
1997.
Give me a hint, Chris.
Oh, I have a real sinking feeling that you might not get this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Titanic.
Oh, sinking, you bastard.
I just telegraphed this stuff for you.
You are such a dad. You're like a corny dad.
You said you wanted a hint, so I gave you one. I don't know. To me, that sounds like a hint. I don't know. Okay, so Carl Sagan, we mentioned him, and he wrote the book that was adapted into this movie. Now, but the thing is, Carl Sagan, as I mentioned, I kind of dropped his name a couple of times. He was most famous, not just for his writing, but he did a 13-part television series in 1980. Yancy, can you name the television series that made Carl Sagan a household name?
Cosmo.
Yes! Oh, yes. It probably cost billions and billions of dollars, too. He used to say that on the show all the time. Okay, beginning of the movie. By the way, one thing I didn't mention was the first time, because we had so long to watch this movie, right? The first time, you're going to kill me. The first time that I went to watch this movie, I fell asleep.
That doesn't surprise me.
And I was about an hour in, I fell asleep. Now, it's not just because I'm bored, it's because like I'm old, right? Because I'm just like this, old, decrepit human being. So I fell asleep. But anyway, in the beginning of the movie, bud, Ellie, she was a little girl. Remember, she uses the ham radio, and she's in Wisconsin. And she uses this ham radio to contact somebody from a faraway city. Do you remember the city that the person lived in that she contacted?
I know it's in Florida.
Yes, it's in your home state. So I thought you might get it.
I can't remember the exact town, so I'm going to say like Key West or Miami.
No, it's neither. It's Pensacola, Florida.
Okay, that's another Florida city, so at least I got the state right.
Okay, Tom Skerritt, he plays David Drumlin in this, okay? And John Hurt plays S.R. Haddon, right? That eccentric guy, right? Mm-hmm. In what 1979 science fiction film did Skerritt and Hurt previously co-star together?
I don't know, Chris.
You know those two actors. You saw them in this movie. You know this other movie. They were in it together. It's Alien.
I'd have to go back and look. I honestly,
John Hurt's the guy that the thing came bursting out of his stomach. Remember the guy in Alien who the thing comes out of his stomach? That's the old guy, S.R. Haddon. Oh, man.
No, I'm not disputing it. It's just it doesn't strike a bell with me. I thought you haven't seen Alien, Chris.
Yeah, but you loved Alien, so I figured you'd be able to get this. Okay, so Tom Skerritt, I just was talking about him. So his character in the movie, as I mentioned, is David Drumlin, right? So before they did the test run of the travel machine, the first one, right? The first one, not the second one that we had hidden over here. But before they did the test run, Drumlin, the character, he referred several times to the robot's name. Remember, they had a robot that was going to sit in there, and he says, we lovingly call him what name?
Oh.
What was the human name given to the robot that sat in for the test of the travel machine?
I can't remember, but this is going to make me so upset.
It was Elmer.
Elmer.
Yeah. Okay, so the last...
Good trivia question.
Yeah, okay, so the last one. I'm going to give you 4 movies, and I want you to do me a favor and tell me what do the following films all have in common. Okay, are you ready?
Is this going to hurt my feelings?
No, of course not. Con Air. Con Air.
Okay.
My Best Friend's Wedding. Batman and Robin. And George of the Jungle. What do those 4 movies have in common?
Say them again.
Con Air. My Best Friend's Wedding.
Okay.
Batman and Robin. And George of the Jungle. 4 movies have something in common. What do they have in common? Yes.
Did they also come out in 1997?
They did, but there's more to it than that.
Well, hey, I got that part right. I feel great.
They all made more money at the box office than Contact did.
You bastard.
So yeah, maybe it will hurt your feelings. Don't feel bad though, Yancy, because Contact did make more money than Soul Food, Home Alone 3, and Good Burger. So you got that going for you. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so that's it. That's all. That's what I got for you. I hope you
nice trivia, Chris. Yeah, honestly, you put a lot of work into this. It's really creative. I like it.
I'm glad you enjoy it. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, so I really am sorry. So what I'm going to do is, and by the way, if anybody out there wants to reach us, you can reach us on Twitter at @CMcBrien, or you can reach Yancy at Yancy Eaton. You can go to popgoesyourworld.com. All our contact information's there. Shoot us an email, contact us. And it's time now for me to nominate a film for you to watch, and we're going to come back next week and discuss. I had another one in mind, but after our opening of the show, I've changed course on this a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, I want you to go back in time, young man, to 1987. Oh, it was a great year. I remember that year very well. I was 17 and this movie came out and I just watched it with my sons, and now you are going to watch it, and it is The Princess Bride. I want you to watch The Princess Bride, and we're going to come back next week and we're going to talk about it, because people from Gen X, Gen Xers like me, absolutely 100% for the most part, most people I know, we really love this movie. It's a very endearing film, and there's quotes in it like you wouldn't believe, and it's got everything going for it. So, and you never met Fred Savage. Who was it? Was it his brother? Who did you meet one time?
I met Ben Savage.
Ben Savage. Okay,
yes.
So Ben Savage's older brother, I guess it is Fred Savage from the Wonder Years, and he's in this movie. And I think you're really going to be shocked when you see him, and you think you're just really going to enjoy it. I really think you're going to enjoy this movie, but I could be wrong. But it is a Gen X staple, so that's why I wanted to nominate it. Okay, so you watch, you watch The Princess Bride. We'll come back next week and we'll discuss it, and we'll go from there. Yancy, it was great to get back in the studio with you again, my friend.
Likewise, I looked forward to just completely rambling and not making cohesive, really concise thoughts, and then having you struggle to kind of like pull the show together. So as always, thank you. You your back's tired from carrying me the entire show. So thanks a lot, man.
No, it's not. It's the other way around. The millennial has to carry me because I'm the old man, and luckily I made it through another show without dying. So we got that going for me. So
cheers.
One of these days I'm going to die from old age on you, and then you'll be like really shocked. But anyway, listen, until next time, this is Chris McBrien for Yancy Eaton saying thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thank you for listening to the Pop Goes Your World podcast. Continue the conversation on Twitter at @CMcBrien or at Yancy Eaton. Please consider leaving a review for the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.